Probably first I should explain that we're down in the program as being Pepper Creative, but just very recently we've merged with another company, so now we're known as Company X, so hence the branding. So just a little bit of information about us. Company X is a award-winning software company. They have 50 to 60 staff, and 70% of clients are international. So for us as then Pepper, it was a really good mix for us that we had a lot of experience in the AR/VR space. They're a well-cemented development company, so with all things these days, partnerships, joining together to become better together was an obvious option. So what am I quickly going to talk to you about? So I wanted to cover, probably it's a little bit different. Yes, we develop software for these devices, but I thought an interesting aspect that probably isn't necessarily covered a lot was around hardware. And this is from an actual use case, a project that we are still currently working on. This is from our initial trial over a year ago. And with the hardware focus, what I wanted to do was talk you through our decision making on a device that we originally started with, the feedback that we got from the trial, and the reason why we moved on from that device onto another device. So hopefully that will be of some help. So the brief that we received from our client was that they have their own digital transformation policy or initiative, and they're constantly looking for new innovations to improve their efficiency. So currently inspection services are performed using tablets, and I guess with all things, tablets have pros and cons, and there were good things about it and obviously not so good. So they were looking at new wearable technologies to provide efficiencies in their workflow. So what we decided to do as a minimum viable product, to get something up and running and get going quickly, was that we'd take a simple inspection process and create a wearable solution for that. So why consider a wearable? So there's end-to-end process efficiency. With a fully wearable, then you're hands-free. So external expert support. We can have remote witness audits, remote directed audits. So probably a use case around this, the remoteness and the external support would be currently, probably 2 or 3 months ago, we were talking with a city council back home in Hamilton, New Zealand. And they're looking, there's a big, I don't know what it's like here in Australia, but there's a shortage in building inspectors. And they were telling me that Auckland City Council have flown out 30 building inspectors from Canada. They're that short. So they were looking at ways of how can we actually be more efficient in our workflows, how can we conduct inspections for permits and things like that more efficiently. And by wearing a wearable device, what they can see could be used is that they would be able to have probably not a qualified person, not a qualified building inspector, but you could have, I was going to say a lesser person, but you know what I mean, right? That they would have someone not qualified, but they could wear the device and be able to talk them through the inspection while watching the video feed, and also be able to help them as well. Along with that, with a wearable, we have the training and mentoring, and down on into health and safety benefits with that. So there are many reasons for adopting an AR platform, not only for its role in conducting the audit or inspection, but also the end-to-end process. Voice-controlled navigation, menu and response choice, selection through an audit program, the voice-to-text capabilities, you have auto correction, you can go online or offline, You will be able to take videos, photographs for audit trails, that sort of thing. So there are a lot of good reasons to want to look at doing that, and with Wearable, it makes it more efficient if your hands are free. So device-wise, I mean, as before, we're pretty much device agnostic. It's really about the use case and what device works best for that. So there's a smorgasbord of devices out there. There are a number of factors to consider, such as the actual ability, intended use, the comfort to wear it, the battery life, all of those sorts of things that until you actually get there and start using it, you don't really know. You know, we can read reviews till the cows come home, but normally it's not until you actually get something and get it out into the workplace that you actually find if it's going to work or not. So first up, we want to select the device for the trial. So there was a number of criteria that we used. The main ones were around hands-free, voice-controlled, the development flexibility. Now I think the development flexibility was an interesting one, I think, because in the end we settled on two candidates, was HoloLens and the ODG R7s. Now, sadly enough, ODG have closed down, but that's the nature of the industry, I guess, and pretty much any industry. But development flexibility, so what does that mean? So we had a look. So if we looked at the HoloLens, I'm not against the HoloLens or anything, we actually do develop for the HoloLens. But in this use case, that it's such a new technology, if we develop for the HoloLens and that didn't work out, what does that mean? If we develop for the ODG R7, which was Android-based, HoloLens obviously is Windows operating system. If we develop for the ODG, if that didn't work, what would it take for us to port that code, that software, into another Android-based device? So really thinking through that, we decided that we'd go with the ODG. And that was the major mover for us. So as I said, so on the basis of what we thought would be a useful device for today's auditing applications, and also they had other models coming through that were more advanced as well. We developed the application, we took that out into the field, and I think it was probably about a 4-month trial that we worked with it. And we came up with some pros and cons with both of them. So for the tablet, we found that obviously they were already working with tablets, so it was a familiar device. It was easier to use. With the ODG glasses, it was something new. It was voice. Excuse me. It was voice. So there was a little bit of training required there. It was easy. The tablet was easy to carry around, but you really couldn't walk and work with it, right? But with the ODG, it was easy to use, but it was easy to use hands-free, but it's also difficult to use while walking, but actually you could still talk and give dictation and get that converted into text and that sort of thing as well. So there was a little bit of an advantage there. So with the tablet, we had the customers are comfortable with the technology, but what they found with the ODG was that, interestingly again, was that it hinders communication with customers due to the heavy frame and design. And that was interesting. I mean, this was also like a customer-facing type of product, and they were just disconcerted about having big, heavy eyewear on, and people found that as a negative. So the tablet is easy to view. The smaller screen with the glasses, you need a little bit more concentration because the screen is a bit smaller. And real-time input is slow because obviously you have to stop and you have to type in notes that you want to make. Whereas if you're doing it through voice, then real-time input is very fast. So to summarise that, the hands-free workflow is possible, but the glasses had disadvantages. Real-time workflow was possible, but not always. Like when you're walking, that sort of thing. Design could become a barrier with the customer, as I just mentioned. The microphone effectiveness with the ODG in noisy environments could be an issue. So I guess if you think about microphones and voice dictation, if someone is standing next to you and talking, if the microphone isn't, say a good microphone, or that technology isn't good, then if somebody's talking next to you, then does it get picked up by the person talking next to you? So that when you're taking notes verbally, you're getting all this other sort of stuff coming at you and being dictated and saved and all that sort of stuff. So there was also things around the battery life. For long-term use, there was the heat, because in that ODG, that all the computing power was in the frames. You may have heard before they mentioned about tethering, so that's where there's no computing power in the frames, but you have like a pack and there's a wire coming from your glasses, and you normally keep it in your back pocket. And the other thing was the possible safety concerns with reduced vision. So while the glasses showed promise, there were issues around the technology, and that at this stage it meant moving to a wearable for digitising workflows was not quite where it needed to be. So we came away from that session, and we had a look around, did a bit more research, and we came up with using the RealWear HMT, which the guys at Virtual Method have over there that you can have a look at. So we went with this device because actually a lot of the issues that came up, this device actually had solutions for and had worked around, so that it had the advantage of being able to be worn over your PPE. At the staff end, there was those who were quite enthusiastic and those who were concerned with EM, electromagnetic issues and that sort of thing, but that's very, common with smartphones, that sort of thing. It meets all standards anyway. And at the customers, their response varied from yes, please, and imagine what we'd be able to do, to probably an interesting thing was we don't know when you're taking a photo with this device, because if you think, if somebody walked into their premises with a smartphone, then you'd know if they were taking a picture. But with a device that just has a camera, you could say, fundamentally, you'd say, take photo, and it would take the photo, right? So that was an issue, but of course that's, in my view, that would be something sorted beforehand. That's a matter of trust and integrity in how you work. So I think there also needed to be a change in workflow. I think we work around, we look at screens, we tap, buttons and that sort of thing. But this is voice, so this is different. So the way that we look at working with this device is that the screen is more like a reassurance that you're actually in the right place, that when you're dictating, that it actually is recognising your words properly. And we would find probably accuracy at 90 to 95%. And so, again, why this device? Well, because it's 100% voice controlled, so the technology is accurate. It's 100% hands-free. You can have the Z1, which is intrinsically safe, which means it's certified for explosive areas, that sort of thing. And there's a number of different things to it that, like uninterrupted vision, comfortable, hot swappable batteries, all of that. Okay. Sorry, I've just got the 1 minute call, so quickly rush through. So let me just play. This is just a little example of the. If we can get it up. Hang on.
Alerts. Alert 1, noted. Alert 2, action. New work order. Comment. Character 16101 was replaced. Completed.
Right, I think that's it. So I just wanted to quickly get that one in before I got kicked off, was that just to give you an example of how it actually works. So my final thoughts around it is that using a voice control device from the work that we've done, from the trials that we've done, is for us, is not a nice to have, but a working reality, because it does provide returns. Reported efficiencies are productivity gains are greater than 25%, 70% increase in accuracy, because as you're talking, it's been taken down. So 88% assembly error reductions, all these sorts of things which really go to prove that this particular device for this use case is ideal. And that's it. Thank you.